Right. Well, I am happy to come in for the global grant section of the webinar, uh, and I was somewhat surprised and pleasantly surprised to see that a number of you have had some involvement with global grants. So that's great. Uh, the global grant process is is independent of our district grant process, and it's more focused with the Rotary Foundation. For instance, applications go directly to the Rotary Foundation and not to the district. As to the basic aspects or characteristics of global grants, a global grant project will involve at least two Rotary clubs, one being a host club in the or host district in the area where a project will take place, and an international club or district partnering with that host club or district. Uh, Global grants must align with a Rotary area of focus. There is a little more leeway with our district grants because they simply have to align with Rotary mission. A global grant has a minimum budget of $30,000 and a minimum World Fund grant match from the Rotary Foundation of $15,000, which from a practical standpoint means that a budget is probably going to be in the $35,000 to $37,000 range as a minimum. A global grant must be the result of a local community needs assessment. That's now very important to the Rotary Foundation. And it is required that a global grant project be sustainable into the future and that the outcome of the project is able to be measured in some respect. This is some examples of recent district and district club global grant projects. We have several projects, thanks largely to Walter Hughes from Rocky Mount, who is very much engaged in Ghana and has done multiple projects in Ghana and is now working in other African countries. We have two recent projects that are actually being carried out within our district. And that may be a question that you hear. Why are we sending our money to the foundation and not having projects done when there's so much need in our district? Well, not only are our district grants funded by our contributions to the foundation, but in the opioid addiction project in the northern part of the district and the mobile vision care project in the southern part of the district are both global grant projects being carried out in our district with the help of international clubs. And the Sam Awori Memorial Water Project, which our District Governor George, past District Governor George, spearheaded, is underway in Uganda. The Rotary Club of Christiansburg, Blacksburg, has a very viable lower limb prosthesis project ongoing in Honduras. And you may recall the water jug project in Ghana was one that the district clubs helped with quite significantly with funding over the past year. And that project is underway as well. Here are some photographs of the mobile vision unit, a distribution site for home drug testing that is part of the Area 1 project. Here is past District Governor George in Ghana, I mean in Uganda, and you can see some of that. Those three photographs at the bottom are from Uganda, and the school building is in Ghana. There are three types of activities funded by global grants. Most commonly are humanitarian projects. There are also global grants can also fund vocational training teams, sending personnel with a certain skill set to another district to help train. And a vocational training team can be funded in conjunction with a humanitarian project, such as providing medical equipment for a hospital and sending a vocational team to train personnel in the use of that equipment. Scholarships are also funded by global grants, and our district, of course, is blessed to have the Skelton Jones Endowed Scholarships. So the scholarships are handled really through a scholarship committee of the district headed by Tamara Ridnour. So we don't have to use our district designated funds to help with the scholarships that are provided through our district. So we'll be focusing on humanitarian projects and vocational training teams. This is a little overview of from 2 years ago. That's the most current data I can find on the number of global grant projects throughout Rotary International. 1,300 global grant projects were approved, and the breakdown by area of focus shows that disease prevention and treatment and water and sanitation projects are the most frequently supported projects. And as you can see, the number of hours devoted and the amount of money raised for the foundation, it is really remarkable what's done worldwide. And it gives you some idea as to how many global grants are done. If you think in terms of 30,000 Rotary clubs worldwide, it means not every club, of course, is involved in a global grant at any one time. As I mentioned, a global grant must support a project that is within one of the areas of focus. And these are our areas of focus. And I won't go into detail on those, and I think everyone's pretty familiar with those. But you have to build a global grant project to address a need in one of these areas of focus. There are two aspects, I think, of the global grant project that are the hardest thresholds to reach. And one of those is identifying a potential host Rotary club or district that will be carrying out a global grant project. Because a host sponsor will probably should do most of the implementation of the project. There's only so much that can be done from here to carry out a project in another country. So having the host sponsor and kind of linking up with a host sponsor is the big first threshold in carrying out a successful global grant project. And I'm not going to read the slide to you, but as an international sponsor, we would, your club or the district primarily provide financial assistance and guidance as we can in both preparing an application and in kind of monitoring the project as it goes on. Both sponsors must be qualified to participate in a global grant, as well as the district. The district is qualified, and a club will be qualified if it agrees to terms and conditions through a memorandum of understanding, which we can help you get and execute. How do you find the international partner? That is somewhat intimidating, but experience has shown that this often comes because of contacts at your Rotary Club or someone in your community who has contacts with a nonprofit or with Rotary in a foreign country. The convention, the International Convention, has a Hall of Friendship, and there are many districts and clubs that have booths at the convention who are seeking international partners. There are a couple of websites that can be consulted where you can find clubs or districts that are seeking international partners. And project fairs are another resource. And I will say, the Central America Annual Project Fair is going to take place later this month in Antigua, Guatemala, and I do plan to go down there and hope to bring back some prospects that I would be happy to share with anyone after the end of the month. I will be going down. Some other Rotarians from the district will be going. So perhaps if you are interested in a global grant project, just contact me, and after the end of the month, then perhaps there will be some opportunities that we find at the Central American Project Fair. In terms of planning your global grant project, there are a few administrative requirements. There has to be a project committee, both for the international sponsor and the host sponsor of 6 Rotarians. They have to be from the same club, the host club or the international club, although it is certainly fine and great if you can involve Rotarians from another club. Within the structure, the project committee itself needs to be members from the host or international club. And you have to insist, if you were the international partner or prospective international partner, one of those kind of features that to get a sense as to how well your host club or district is going to carry out the project is how organized they can be on the front end. So you need to insist on a committee from a host club or district. You have to certify there are no conflicts of interest from the between your project and committee members, and you should consider that as with the district grant, that the committee members are going to be around for a year or two to have continuity with that committee. As I mentioned, the Rotary Foundation is insisting now on a written community needs assessment that can be in the form of interviews, surveys, or questionnaires, but these projects have to be from the bottom up. They are not to be a Rotarian's idea of what a community across the ocean needs. The project needs to fit what the community sees as its needs. And so with the application will come several questions and even the need for a matrix to show how the community needs assessment has been done. The other thing that Rotary Foundation insists upon is sustainability of a project. You're going, even from the very beginning, you're going to have to, in the application, set out how you're going to make your project sustainable. For example, with a water project, in all likelihood, you're going to have recipients of a clean water or a water system that's being installed are going to need to pay at least a nominal fee, enough to cover what will be anticipated as the personnel and maintenance expense ongoing with the project. So Rotary Foundation staff can see from the beginning that the project can be sustainable, that there'll be funds, if funds are necessary, to continue a project. The other daunting part of a global grant project is financing it. So I did want to cover the funding of the global grant project and just give an example of how one might fund a project. Hopefully a club will have can incorporate some funding into its own budget for a global grant project. But in all likelihood, a club will have to have some kind of special fundraiser for a particular project. And I think as a practical matter, some of the individuals in a club or in your area may need to be approached who you feel like could give something extra that is earmarked for your project, but does count toward Paul Harris recognition. Contributions can be made even from the donation website for the foundation to a specific already approved global grant. But you need to get the commitment, of course, earlier. You can ask other clubs to help. You should get some funding, some buy-in from a host district, and then you should feel free to approach our district asking for some amount of district designated funds to help. And then, of course, the match from the Rotary Foundation will play a part of your budget. So this kind of gives you an idea of how you might fund a project and what those sources are. Club funding, perhaps a club fundraiser, going to certain individuals to ask for a significant contribution toward a particular project. You can come to the district. That $6,000 is not guaranteed. It's a case-by-case basis, but certainly approach the district. Come to us with your ideas about a project and some help from a host club. The match from the Rotary Foundation is well, let me go back. The world match from the Rotary Foundation is dollar for dollar for district contributions of designated funds, and it is a 50-cent to $1 match for club or individual Rotarian funding of a project. Our district designated funds are our annual fund contributions, which come back to the district. 50% of what is sent in to the Rotary Foundation comes back to us as district designated funds 3 years after the contributions are made. And our annual fund contributions also, of course, go to the World Fund. So our district gets significantly more than 50% back as long as we're doing global grant projects that get the World Fund match. The Rotary Foundation is going to look at your budget and is going to require the funds for a project to be segregated into an account specifically for the project. We suggest that if you have identified a project that you want to carry out with a host club, or if you want to be a host club and do something here locally, and we'll try to help you get international support, we feel like the way to sell your project is to prepare a one-page summary of your project that will describe what your project's about, identify or set out the budget for it, and we'd be happy to post that to the Global Grants District website. And it is possible to get a global grant number when you have simply when you know what your project is generally, and you have identified the host club and can provide the primary contacts for the global grant. The application is done online. We'll cover that. And once you receive a global grant number, that should give your project some credibility as you try to raise funds. The application is totally online. As I said, it doesn't come to the district. It goes directly to the Rotary Foundation. And once you open up the grant application, you have a year to complete the application, and you only need the project name and primary contacts to create the application and get your global grant number. But you do have a long potential lead time if you need it to complete the application. And if you'll notice that website, it is one that you can go to, and you can get a great deal of information about global grants. This is the life cycle of the grant, from the draft to the authorization by the club and district leaders, to the submission of the grant to the foundation, approval, and then the carrying out the project. And I have to say, the Rotary Foundation staff is going to look very closely at the application, and more likely than not will come back with questions between the submission and approval. They are very thorough, I will say. So here's just a little checklist. And down at the bottom, you will be required to make progress reports each year, the first one being due a year after your project has been funded by the foundation, and you will submit a final report shortly after the project's been completed. Here are a few differences between the district and global grant. The minimum budget, an area of focus, and measurable outcomes in particular. I just have these two comments at the end. A global grant will take time. Communication with your partner may sometimes be frustrating. Just to carry out a global grant, you're going to have to be patient. At the same time, you're going to have to be persistent. But with that, it is so rewarding to be able to do a global grant. So I'm going to go and see. There are just a few questions. Let me go to those. The first question: do we have a standard needs assessment we require, or are we okay with something they provide? If okay with theirs, is there a list online of what needs to be in it? If the we is the district, yeah, we do not have a standard needs assessment. That website that I mentioned, grants.rotary.org, does have a list of what needs to be in it. Can multiple areas of focus be addressed by a global grant? They can, but I would suggest that even if you want to address more than one area of focus, that you apply only with one area of focus, because you will be required by the foundation to go through pretty much almost a separate application process for each area of focus you say you're addressing. So if you could pick one area, even though you want to work in another area, the application process will be much easier if you choose only one area of focus for your application. And the third question: does the needs assessment need to be completed by the host club, or can it be completed on site by the international club? Now, if the international club, and let's say it's one of our clubs, has personnel who are willing to go to the site of the project and be personally involved in the assessment, that's fine, that's great, and but it will be sent in. The assessment information will be sent in through the application, so it could be either and both. And Diane, did you want to say something?
I didn't have anything.
Oh, okay.
You covered. I've been marking off your questions as answered.
Okay. I see that somebody says grants.rotary.org is currently returning a 404 page not found. I would suggest then, if that's a problem, you can go into, just go into My Rotary and go to the Grants Center. Go to the tab under My Rotary to Rotary Foundation, and then that will drop down another menu, and Grants Center is where you can go to get to the same page. And that takes care of the questions right now. So we will move into stewardship and Jennifer Mead. So Jennifer, I see, and Jennifer, I'm going to turn over control to you to start stewardship, and thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right.